Evening, everybody. Welcome to our special council meeting. First of all, we would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Robinson Superior Treaty Territory and that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Métis. We'll move right on to unfinished business. Resolution 89.
That's for other business.
What's that?
The resolutions are for other business. We're unfinished right now.
Oh. Okay, unfinished business, 2023 preliminary budget.
There's a recommendation that the council of the township of Schreiber authorize the capital expenditures on the OSWA 2023 recommended capital major and minor maintenance report in the amount of $214,400.
Well, I have no problem for the commuters, but we gotta find out where we're getting the money from. As we talked about in close.
So commuters, yeah.
I hope I'm saying it right.
Commonuters.
Commonuters, it's kind of a, yeah. So yes, so we did discuss this, and I think we pretty much all decided that the next question gets to be, how are we gonna fund that? Thoughts?
Marlene, what's been the general amount that we've done for capital, I think last year, that we ran through taxation? I have that.
I think it was around 125
For sewer?
for water and sewer.
For water and sewer?
Yeah.
It was 120, so it was approximately a similar amount.
This is slightly elevated, so when I take the total 214.4 and I subtract the 35 that was carried over for the filter study.
Optimization, yeah.
And the 10,000 out of the 30 for the SCADA upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
And then I take out the 26.9 that is considered maintenance, minor or major maintenance.
That's under operating, that's on a capital project, right?
That's the stuff in the blue, that's all operating, then I get 142.5, and 90,000 of the 142.5 is the common users.
So that leaves us with, in 2023, 142.5.
Yeah.
Yep.
Plus the amounts we've already spent. On February 28th, we motioned $27,495, which was covered. You're right. On February 14th, we motioned $10,471 for butterfly valves. That was capital. February 14th, we motioned $87.92 for anthracite. That was capital. And February 14th, we motioned $18,613 for the VFD valve. That was capital. So if I add those amounts to 142.5, where am I?
I get 9, so what I did, I didn't catch all the first numbers, so I've got the support, no, it's okay, because I was thinking the same thing, I've got the 19,000, for the first item.
19,000.
87.92 was the anthracite, right?
Right.
What was the first thing you said?
The butterfly valves were 10,471.
Oh, am I double dipping then if I'm using 19,000?
You are.
Yeah.
Okay,
You are, yeah.
I'll take the 87.92 out then. Hold on.
Okay. Those two amounts.
and then I added 18,000 for the VFDs.
Valve,
Is that what it was, 18,000?
18,613.
Okay,
So if you add the 10, the 87, the 18 to the 142.5, where are we? Impossible.
$180,150.
181.5 compared to 125 last year. So that puts us roughly about $60,000 over last year's capital.
Of what you budgeted, yes. I'm just double checking on your budget here.
Now that's
Yeah, 125 was your budget for water,
okay. So
from taxation.
for water and sewer.
That was just water taxation, because sewer was all funded through other
Okay.
bodies, not through taxation.
So out of this 142.5, 90 is the
Commonuters.
and the rest I think are all outlined here. If you so I'm just before you guys start going through this line by line, if you approve 142.5, you are approximately $60,000 over last year. Excuse me, what you already spent.
Good, because of the big ones, the commutators.
Because of that, the money we've already spent and some of the other items in here.
Yeah. But the big one is,
The big one is the 90.
yeah,
The secondary one is the SCADA computer upgrade. And Marlene's right. It says $30,000 in that yellow highlight. It's actually only 20,000 because we've already moved 10. So that's a $20,000 hit. And I think as Tammy, I'm going to speak for you, that as we talked about the new filtration system and the fact that nothing can be done manually and everything has to be done by computer, and the notes and things that she was telling us on the tour, I don't know how you guys feel about the SCADA upgrade, but that's what I would mention about the SCADA upgrade. That's our computer system that runs that whole water treatment plant.
yeah, no, I think it's gotta be upgraded.
So there's 90 and 30, so out of the 142, you're at 120. So that leaves you with 22.5, and that's the amount that is on page 1. Major maintenance items for the water treatment plant that you'd have to look at.
I've also put out to see whether or not the commonuters would qualify for federal gas tax usage, because that water, wastewater is a category in
It
there.
is for that Bill Canada, yeah.
So, I think at this point in time, what we're looking for is because, I mean, even if you look at the loader that we ordered last year, that it has only finally arrived in the district now, so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, it's 4 months out of, beyond the date of delivery, the estimated date of delivery. It's to go ahead with these projects and get them started.
No, there's that. And the only other thing I would mention is, let me just get out here. The chalk is for the sewer. At the end of December, you're reporting that we had $59,000, almost $60,000 unspent in sewer. We moved 35 over. That was fine.
Right now, I just look right now,
Yeah.
this is before any journal entries, but I've got in water and sewers 493, just over 493. So you have money in your reserve.
No, I'm not talking about reserve.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
talking about in 2022,
Okay.
sewer, we were under budget to the tune of about $60,000. my guess would be that money would be transferred over as a reserve number.
Yes, you are correct.
So I'm just pointing that out, that there's $60,000 there, potential there. Because the 35 we moved was for water. It wasn't for sewer, right? Yes, it was. So 35 came out of the water budget, not the sewer budget. Last meeting, February 17th, we made a motion 34-2022 to remove $35,000 from the water budget and transfer it into reserves. But we didn't move any money out of
But was
sewer.
that for the anthracite?
No, that was for the optimization,
Right, so
because we hadn't used it.
that would have been capital.
Yes.
Yes, okay, I was
Yes.
thinking
So I'm looking now at sewer capital, and I'm saying, at the end of 2022, we had roughly $60,000 left over unspent
in operating.
in operating. No, in sewer.
Operating
Sewer
or
operating.
Operating.
Yes.
Okay,
That you would normally transfer that over to reserve.
if there is a surplus in water or sewer in operating at the end of the year, yes, it does
Okay.
get transferred to reserve, yes.
So, if your numbers are correct, and I'm guessing they're darn close to being correct, because it looks like everything's posted, that means that logistically, the operating money that we transfer to reserve, we could earmark that money to transfer back to pay for these C word, whatever.
Capital, yeah, common users.
Yeah, combinators, I can't say that word. So that, you wouldn't have to transfer so much of the federal gas tax is my only
If we did,
concern.
yeah,
That would save us.
that's right. There is money in, I mean, it would never be a recommendation that you deplete any
No.
reserve to any, like, to any.
No.
But I think in this situation, it's been explained that you don't really have too much of a
No.
choice on any of the items that are on that capital list, right? Of what's there to do. And that you do have money in your, you do have money either in your gas tax or in infrastructure or your water and sewer reserve. Because we do keep track of the difference between water and sewer.
You do.
We don't have that right at hand right now, but we do keep track of what's
You
in there,
do.
so you would have money to be able to do. And I'm pretty sure that that it was.
Yeah, the
sewer
water,
had a higher.
the water and sewer at your, the water and sewer reserve at your last report was combined together.
Yeah.
So you had $400,000 of reserve in water and sewer, but that's not taking into account transferring over any money from operating.
From 22, that's right.
All I'm saying is, I'm with the, I don't know, sorry. I'm going to agree with you. I don't think you want to deplete that reserve drastically.
How soon will you know on the federal gas tax part?
I would hope to know by the end of the week of whether or not it will qualify.
Qualifies?
And I would say at the end of 21, it was
Federal gas
234 that was in
Essentially, that
sewer.
like, it's gonna.
That was the portion.
Mm-hmm. It would be nice, my thinking is personally, it would be nice to transfer some money from the gas tax, federal gas tax, so that we don't put such a big impact on it. We could cover some of this, because we've already had some major failures in water and sewer that had to be addressed. If we tie this particular report, where all of these things are necessary, like the scatter repeater, like these communators, and we take all of that and don't try and cover some of it, she's got nowhere to go should something fail. So in 6 months, if something fails in that sewer plant, if we don't cover some of this partially through reserves, we've left her no wiggle room.
I think we take a portion of it
Portion.
out of the water and sewer reserves, and plus a portion out of
Federal gas
the
tax?
gas tax, for
Mhm.
sure.
Because we already know the sewer's gonna be kicking in 60 grand, probably, I'll be close.
I think if you're taking money out of the reserve, like, for instance, the federal gas tax, you're taking money out of it, but you're also getting money.
Yeah, they
Year
transfer money
over
in
year.
every year, yes.
So, I mean, that makes sense to, I mean, it's almost like borrowing money, you're taking money out, but you're putting it back in.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me.
That's what
I
it's
think
for.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
Marlene, do you recall approximately how much they have given us recently?
Our
Per annum?
2023 allocation is, I believe, around the 70,000.
67 and change.
I think they increased it for 2023 to, it used to be 33
Yeah.
twice a year, just over 33, and they've increased it to 35.
I think the last link I found,
67, 173.
Yeah, but I believe for 2023, it's up to
it's higher,
70.
yeah?
Yeah, slightly higher to
Okay.
35,000.
Yeah. So yeah, there's always money going in there.
Yeah.
So I agree, like kind of splitting that up a little bit, taking some from federal gas tax and some, because we're gonna kick money in from operating out of the water or the sewer reserve. Because
Yeah.
if we don't, and we should
No,
put
for
all
sure.
this as
No, for
capital,
sure.
we've just messed her.
For sure, but we gotta leave a good chunk in there too, like you say, because anything to do with water and sewer is,
So expensive.
you don't know what's coming down, but yeah, I'd say take it out of the reserves.
So
Just
right
split it
now,
from the
the
reserves.
resolution right now is to look at approving authorizing the purchases, and council will be able to make that determination on transfer from reserves when we're looking at the budget later on.
2023 budget overall.
Exactly, when we're looking at determining that rate.
Okay.
Well, because it is necessary, right? But
But
if we
based on
can
this
mitigate, if
conversation,
we can mitigate some of that and not have to
Yeah.
send it to the taxpayers, all the
Exactly.
better. Then water and sewer gets the things that they need, and our residents get good service for their water and sewer, and we can try and just cover some of that.
Exactly. All I'm saying is you can fine tune that exact amount
Yeah.
when you're determining the rate.
I just don't want to add this to a capital, put the whole amount to a capital line and have it come through in the 2023 budget, and then we're,
As taxation.
oof,
Yep.
okay?
Yeah,
Make sense? What do you think?
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. Good plan.
Check
Palpitations.
everyone's then okay with moving it on.
Way for spending money.
So is everybody okay then with the,
With the rest of that list?
yeah,
Just for clarification, if you're okay, should all these purchases come either at the number presented in the report or under, right? Tammy would be authorized to sign off on the aqua expenditure request. If for some reason it comes in over, then we'll bring it again back to the
Right.
table.
But what we're approving today is the 142.5.
Yep,
So-
technically.
So on page 122.5, for those items, smart meter, C12 analyzer, raw pH analyzer, 6-inch gate valves.
And you formally approved the operating expenses. The reason why we put it in again is because you have to approve the purchasing of it, so.
Yeah, so that was 22.5. The water treatment plant, the 35 is already covered. The $30,000, $10,000 of that is covered, so that only leaves us 20 there. That's, and the other yellow thing, I believe, is for,
I mean,
Combinator.
whatever it's called.
is the 9.
shredders.
That's all the name.
Sorry. It's a terrible word. So those are the three items that add up to 142.5, correct? Yeah? Yeah.
Yes.
So everybody's okay with that?
Yeah.
Ann?
Yeah.
Benji? And-
As long as we get it covered, I'm okay with it. But I think it's there.
Okay.
And then wear wooden shoes from now on. I'll buy them for you so that nothing else goes wrong with water and sewer.
Comminutor, is that how you pronounce
Comminutors, yes.
Shredders.
it?
Comminutors.
Grinders.
Comminutor. Comminutor.
Yeah.
That's how it's spelled. That's how I found it out. But I went to grade 2 a long time ago.
So move on to other business then? Right? Resolution
89.
8923. Moved by Councilor Bryson, seconded by Councilor McGrath. The Council of Township of Schreiber has identified that renovations to the Schreiber Community Arena are a priority project, including the replacement of the chiller and upgrades to the heating system to improve the functionality and to extend the useful life of the facility. Discussion?
I just have a question on the brine pump, because we had just talked about that, about just changing the filter out.
Yeah, we're not changing the brine pump. We're
Oh.
we're hopeful to change the brine chiller.
Oh, okay,
It's a difference.
The brine pump takes the brine from the tank and circulates it. And the brine chiller is the big long tube that the brine goes through to be chilled before it goes out to the ice surface.
You're replacing both or one?
Just the brine chiller.
Just the
Just the
brine chiller?
okay, well, why does it say, it
Says-
says at stage 1, September 2023, ice chiller and brine pump.
Replacement.
I'm not sure why she's written that.
That's why I asked that question, because
So an ice chiller is $185,000
Yes.
for a tube,
Well,
which moves, you just said,
yeah, it's a very large tube. It's got 280 little tubes in it.
that sounds like a really
that is
old
the chiller.
argument. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the one with the hazardous,
that's the ammonia
that's
that expires.
deadly, super deadly.
Yeah, it expires next year.
Yeah.
I can play just a brief video just to familiarize council with what this is.
It's 6 minutes. It's not long.
The Fernie Memorial Arena, a civic recreational facility in Fernie, BC, is comprised of a curling rink and a hockey rink, separated by a common area that includes a large compressor room. The refrigeration system for both rinks is located in the compressor room. A critical component of the refrigeration system is the brine chiller. The chiller helps create ice for the hockey and curling surfaces. A brine chiller is a large cylinder filled with ammonia. Inside the cylinder are many smaller tubes through which warm brine passes. The ammonia in the cylinder evaporates as it boils, cooling the brine as it circulates through the tubes. It is critical that the brine and ammonia never mix. Due to corrosion over time, a pinhole developed in one of the curling rink's chiller tubes, allowing ammonia to leak and mix with the brine. This leak was not repaired during the 2017 summer seasonal shutdown. On October 16, 2017, at approximately 6 a.m., the chiller for the curling rink was started and put back into service. On October 17, 2017, at 3:52 a.m., the automatic ammonia gas detector alarm system was triggered. The alarm system sent an alert to the fire department and the security monitoring company that there was an ammonia leak at the arena. Soon after, 2 City of Fernie workers arrived at the arena with the fire department. 2 firefighters and 1 of the city workers put on self-contained breathing apparatus and entered the compressor room. Inside the room, they observed the refrigeration equipment running and the ammonia alarm sounding. The brine expansion tanks were shaking and brine was sloshing out. The firefighters, using handheld detectors, registered ammonia readings of 300 parts per million. which is the level that is immediately dangerous to life and health. One of the city workers closed some of the brine system and ammonia system valves. The shaking stopped. The firefighters vented the building, and the ammonia levels were monitored at 50 parts per million. A city worker then isolated the leaking chiller and shut the system down. The firefighters were told they were no longer needed and left the location between 4:30 and 5 a.m. At approximately that time, it was decided that the compressors should be restarted in an effort to save the hockey rink's ice. However, because the compressor's oil had been contaminated with brine, the compressors could not be restarted until the oil had been changed. An external contractor dispatched a refrigeration mechanic to the site to change the compressor oil. Prior to the arrival of the refrigeration mechanic, arrangements were made to put the ammonia alarm in silent mode for the repairs. Shortly after 9 a.m., the refrigeration mechanic and the 2 city workers entered the compressor room to change the oil in one of the compressors. They were not wearing appropriate personal protective equipment and did not have personal monitors for ammonia exposure. There was no backup team, and emergency responders were not present. From the time the refrigeration system was put back into service the day before, and while the refrigeration system was shut down, the ammonia leak in the curling rink's chiller continued. As the ammonia in the brine increased, so did the pressure in the system. At approximately 9:30 a.m., a second mechanical failure occurred. The rising pressure within the brine system eventually exceeded the holding strength of a coupling, causing it to separate and spray the workers with a mixture of brine and ammonia. A high concentration of ammonia was rapidly released into the room. The ammonia levels were not survivable. All 3 workers succumbed to the exposure.
Okay, just a bit of context there with what exactly the brine chiller looks like, and why it's important for it to function well, and why it has an expiry date. You know, if there's anything else you need to explain there, Tammy.
So ASHRAE is the governing body that inspects refrigeration systems. I have a list of refrigeration components that they provided me. The brine chiller has a 20-year shelf life, and then the pipes become foul, and that's what causes your pinholes. We're currently about to expire at 24 years next year.
So that's the chiller needs to be replaced, or the chiller and all the piping?
All the piping is fine, it's just the chiller, because they will evacuate all of the ammonia and store it in cylinders, and they will dispose of the brine, which will have to be hauled away by GFL. And so everything would be evacuated, and it would be safe for them to do the work on it, and it's a complete replacement on the chiller itself. Then with these new regulations as a result of this event that happened in BC, it has to be an engineered blow-off pipe for the ammonia to escape to the outdoors.
So this price of $185,000 includes all of that?
Yes.
And the brine, and then the replacement, so you'll have to replace the brine?
The brine is water and calcium chloride.
Okay, so it's not
Right.
It's not expensive.
No, well, expensive enough, I guess, but
But it's
I mean,
not
it's,
difficult
yeah,
to
it's,
make.
I think it's $30 a bag or something like that.
Okay.
So $185,000 keeps ice on the arena surface for the next 20 years.
Yep. The way Simcoe explained it to me is, and according to this list of components, they also have like the compressors and the, motors and pumps and all of that kind of thing. Those also have a shelf life. The difference with that is those are regularly inspected and maintained. Compressors are rebuilt. That starts the clock again. So we're not going to expire on those components as long as we stay on top of our maintenance and inspections.
Is the old chiller scrap? Like, is it just like? I'm assuming it is, but it's just a question. Like, could we sell it to be retubed, or I don't know.
I don't believe so, but I could ask. I think that once, because it doesn't look to me like it comes apart, but I definitely worth the ask.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like if it could be retubed and recommissioned, right, that would be,
Absolutely.
I think that would be something that we would look at too then if it was cheaper, right? But-
Yeah.
And,
It's worth asking though.
yeah.
And then we move into the rest, heating upgrades, roof repairs, plumbing, carpentry. Did you want to go over that stuff, Tam?
Well, you know about the heating situation. We are extremely undersized in our boilers in that building. We could dedicate the 600,000 BTUs that are there now. We could dedicate that to the domestic side and add some additional components to the arena side that would help us with our heating situation. That would show us some savings as well. Right now, the boilers at the arena do not shut off because they're just simply not big enough. So adding components you might think would add to your cost, but it will not. It will actually allow the system to
It saves you an operation.
shut off and, yeah, exactly.
Can I ask you, what's the price of these infrared heaters?
I don't have an individual price on any of those. What they did is they broke down, I don't have the quote in front of me,
Okay.
but I could tell you what it costs for the hot water on demand and storage tanks, and I think I must have I think now that you're saying that, I believe you might be looking at 35,000 for the infrared.
Okay.
But don't quote me on that until I look at my paper.
So our cost is $160,000 if this grant application is successful.
That would do all of the
That would do everything.
items listed here,
So
yes.
again, the question is, where does that money come from?
Well, and the other thing is prioritizing stuff, making motions
Yeah,
to spend money
yeah.
that we don't know where we're getting it from because we haven't finished up the 2023 budget. So before you get there, roof repairs, plumbing, and carpentry, if I've done the math right, those three things equal $285,000.
Yes.
So if we elected to do something less, we could still go 75-25, just our 25% would be less than 160,000.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the next threshold is 200 and is it 250 that drops you down to 10%?
It's 200.
220?
200.
If you pick a project, yeah, the rural development fund, if you pick a project, you can spend up to $200,000, but it's covered 9 and 10. So you could spend, let's just say for that video, if you said, okay, I need $200,000 to just do the ice chiller this year, you could get that covered through the same grant by itself, and we would be on the hook for $20,000 instead of $160,000. What other besides the list that's provided here that we really haven't, as a mayor and council, had a chance to sit down and go over, other than cursory looks, because we're in the middle of a budget, was there other capital stuff that was needed for the arena?
I would,
Or was this all of it?
The arena,
Just the arena?
that's it.
Okay. Or is there additional capital repairs needed for the rec center?
Absolutely.
Are there additional requests that are gonna be needed for other buildings that are owned outside, even this office here?
Public Works,
Yeah.
municipal complex, water treatment plant.
We have a list of all that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there are, right? So that's the list that
That's-
she had given us earlier.
yeah,
Yeah.
but we don't, again, you get to it.
Yeah, because the question for me, and you guys, I'm just gonna say this, is I have no idea of priority
Yeah.
other than watching that little video. And I certainly have no idea of money. Because we haven't made any decisions and I don't know where we stand in the budget.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I could never figure out is, you know, what, and we should know when we're making decisions, that what are priorities that we need to do today and put off till tomorrow. We need that information. So is that possible to get a list like that? How difficult would that be to do?
A list of everything that needs to be done
Yeah.
In
our
priority.
in
and
priority.
prioritize.
Are you talking about for this arena?
No,
thing,
for the-
or just in general?
For in general, for all our buildings.
Yep, and so that would be on the capital wish list. You just have to, typically, we do sit down and, as a management team, and try to filter through some of the
Yeah,
recommendations there. And anything that we say is, mandatory, we'll tell you it's, a mandatory expense at this point.
you basically got something like that going on in your office now with the whiteboard.
With my whiteboard, yeah, I've listed all of the properties
Yeah.
that we're responsible for and what needs to be done at each location. A lot of your maintenance has been put off for a variety of reasons. So we have to play catch up, or we're always reacting instead of being proactive.
yeah.
I understand that. But making single one-off decisions like this,
Mhm.
without any idea of how they're going to impact a budget, what that might or might not mean to a tax increase, what that might not mean to other priority items that maybe would come in advance of just some of these items, and how that's gonna look overall and how we're gonna fund it. To me, it's working with our hands tied behind our back. I understand the grant timeliness of this, I do, because this grant, I think, gotta be in fairly shortly.
In order to cover the chillers,
I would-
this year, we would need to have this grant in, towards, we have to put the phase one application on Friday. That's why, this has come forward this fast.
Is this a
I
one-time
agree with
grant?
No, it's,
So we don't need to do all this at one time. We can break it down like Anne Marie
that's the
discussed.
reason why we put it together, is because they will only cover this building once in the foreseeable future. If you wanna do the same application, because we looked at that, we looked into the feasibility of, can we do two separate,
Right.
because that covers it, when you say to, we would be covering 90/10 for, both these projects.
Yeah,
The problem with that is, right, they also are aware of that as well, and, they're seeing it as one sort of project as well, so, part of the problem is to try to get the full funding for both these projects, they need to be grouped together into, one big project, and basically what they've told us is try to cover as many expenses as you can in the building for the eligible criteria, which is 500,000,
Now, could
in order
you,
to maximize the grant.
now, could you put in a smaller grant for $200,000 for the arena?
Mhm.
Okay? And let's move over to the Public Works garage. Could you put $200,000, the same purse, for the work you need at that town garage, both, both different grants, but both under the 200,000, 90% fund, or yeah, 90%
10.
funded, only 10%. So you ain't putting all of it into the arena this year. You're putting what you need, the chiller and brine pump.
Yep.
And I'm just using the town garage. So then you're gonna fix the roof and whatnot for 200 grand over there. And both are costing us 20,000 arena, 20,000 at town garage. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It
And
works.
we're kind of hitting priorities in different areas.
It works for buildings. You can put in the grants for separate buildings. So the grant has to be what you say specific to a physical building.
Yeah.
So you could spread it out like that. But once you do put in an application for the 200 for the building, you can't put in any more NOHFC applications for that building anymore.
For that
You
particular
lose-
building.
You lose your opportunity to get things covered up to 75% because you tried to get it covered at the 90%. So
For how long? For how long? So now, okay,
Yeah.
so further on that. So we do it here,
Yeah.
do it at the arena, do it at the Public Works Garage next year. Do it at the complex, at the hall, and here.
Because the stage two.
And the following.
Yeah,
and the
that you
following-
put together
and the
is all.
following year,
Yeah.
or 2 years from then, go back to the arena. And,
I don't believe, that's what they kind of said is it would not work.
but try and stay under the 90%. I totally get it,
I get it too.
but I'm
this-
trying to stay at the 90%, 10%, instead of going to the 75, 25, bigger money, bigger expense.
And the stage two that you've outlined here with all the heating upgrades, the roof, the bulk of this $660,000 is occurring as a stage two in summer of 2024 and fall of 2025. And I'm going to be real honest with you and tell you there is always money for recreation. It's an easier find than it is to get a new furnace cover here, guaranteed. My concern is we're making decisions to spend money and we don't fully understand what the ramifications are going to be. And we can't keep pulling money out of reserve. We gotta start budgeting, put more money into reserve, not take it out. So, I don't know how important the rest of these projects look to you as counselors. It's up to you guys.
Like, is there, I mean, this is one grant. Now, would there be another grant down the road that might cover the second part of, for instance, the arena? The ice chiller, and I get it, it's important, we need to get that done.
To the amount of 75%, that's unlikely. Usually we get larger amounts, usually to 50-50. NOHFC is by far one of the most competitive grant
It is.
contributors that
Absolutely.
we have. The other contributors, sometimes you get the ICIP stream that may cover, for instance, now we've got the ICIP green stream that covers up to sometimes around the 70% range
Yeah.
to a large number. But essentially what I'm saying is this project, you may not get the opportunity to cover it to that degree. I mean, there's also under the $200,000 range, you get OTF grants, for instance, that could cover a substantial portion. We recently, got an OTF grant at a 50-50 funding ratio. So for 300,000, we got about 150,000 covered.
Yes, we know, because we've had to try and find the room to cover the other 150.
Yep.
I,
So you may potentially lose the opportunity to get the remaining portion or other fixes covered in the arena for at a 75% ratio.
I think you're absolutely right. We stand a chance. But
Yeah.
that's what it is, it's a chance.
The difficult decision for you all to make now is
So stage one is for this year, we're spending the
Yep.
money this year.
Yeah.
So 185,000, our
Yep.
portion would be,
18.5.
yeah, what's that?
18.5.
Yeah, 18.5.
And I apologize, I didn't want to put you all in this position
Yeah.
for
No.
this. It's,
Yeah.
the why it's so quick is because we're trying to get the chiller covered as soon as possible. Otherwise, we could have,
Yeah.
developed the scope of work for the
Right,
remaining
for the
portion
remaining.
to a much better degree, even to show the return on investment from the energy savings, maybe to help sell that component. But we're trying to get the chiller covered, and then we're looking at the we don't want to lose out now on having the ability to do all those other repairs at that high level of 75 to 25 ratio.
I agree with you. My issue is none of this stuff is prioritized. I don't know where the capital costs are coming, and I'm 100% sure I don't have $160,000 in the capital budget. I'm just 100% sure, and that's without even looking over that side of the room to say I bet we don't have it. And I take your response. I think you're right. We run a chance, but then I think there are other capital projects that might be higher in priority than some of this. Sorry. That's my opinion. You guys go ahead.
No, that is a problem. I agree.
Benji? Thoughts? Let's be honest. You don't have to.
No, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but also, if we don't capitalize on this opportunity, is there a risk that we're left holding the bag on a higher portion of the chiller that we need?
No, if we just get the chiller, is what we're saying. We won't do any of the rest of it.
Gotcha.
But then he's right, we run the risk of having the heating upgrades, the roof repairs, the plumbing, the carpentry not funded at 75-25 in the future. That is a risk. It's a
But
definite risk.
none of it is a necessity.
I don't know. I don't know what it is compared to what other costs you've got, a capital request in this wish list and where it sits in priority. I don't know because we've got that wish list. I don't know what the priority is.
What are the cons of, like, what's the issue if we don't do the boilers, and what's the issue if we don't do the other stuff on that list?
It's funding.
It's a little cooler in the arena.
Your boilers will continue to work constantly, not meeting the demand, so they never
Okay.
shut off.
So things will continue status quo.
And if something runs continuously, you run the risk of it breaking more likely.
So you're saying that is, you would consider like on the priority list, you would consider that high on the priority list?
I think you have the most opportunity to save money by spending money on that one.
On that one.
The roof repairs, it's currently not leaking. The flashing that's missing is probably, it's cosmetic. The ice gates are, in my opinion, serious. If the snow or ice falls off that roof onto somebody, or worse yet, if the broken ice gates actually break away from the roof and fall on somebody, that's terrible. The plumbing, your water's been leaking in the wall for years, I understand. They just keep shutting the water off to that shower until it's being used. So they're all serious maintenance issues. Can we live with them for a little bit longer? Some of them, yes.
Okay.
Some of them, no.
It's hard to also draw that line to say definitively that, they won't accept another application in the arena within. It's difficult because they change the programs at any point. This was just brought up again. We have conversations, right, with any sort of idea for funding with the NOHFC grant specialist there and describe the project and try to say, look, these are all the costs and all we have. This is how we're trying to optimize it, right? So yes, there is a, what you say, an expense that you need to pay, but you're getting it at 75% off. You want to do, it's an opportunity to do, right, a lot of those expenses at a good rate. And
So-
you can cover, what you say, any of our portion potentially from a reserve.
So
That's,
it
yeah, that's my question, is where does that portion come from?
comes from reserve. If,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
don't want on the, either that or we do all of this, put all the cap cost, tell every other department they can't have 1 red cent for the rest of the year. How do you think that's gonna go over? Mandatory or no, doesn't matter.
So what part
We're
of the,
spending it all.
what part of the reserves then,
That's what we're looking at. Costs a lot of money.
where do you think, what reserve would that come from?
Yes.
You talked about collapsing some of this stuff here last,
You still have quite a bit of money in your federal gas tax.
yeah.
Federal gas tax we have. Is it? Okay, yeah, federal gas tax is separate. We have 431. We could definitely deplete all of that. How does that affect our borrowing ability moving forward if we had to do a UV project?
You're well below your, what you say, debt capacity. Not that I recommend you to take on more debt.
Okay.
I think generally we would say it depends on the scenario of the project.
Right.
That being said, part of the dechlorination project, we should really take a look at the chemical costs versus the financing costs.
Right.
And determine that.
Until they mandate it and they force our hands, and we have to come up with $1.5 million.
Yep.
Whether we like it or not.
Yep.
And it gets to be on one of these lists, right? Yeah. Because you want to leave money in that federal gas tax.
How much is in the federal gas tax?
431,000.
431,000.
We're
And
taking,
we've already said we're going to take out
So if you, at the end,
60 and about 90,000 for the
commuters,
commonuters.
no,
I hate that.
but you're not taking the whole 90 out of federal. gas
Yeah, we are
tax.
because we've only got about 60 left over, and she needs to spend 142 to get that done. To get everything she needs for her water sewer capital costs.
I thought some was coming out of the water and sewer. Was it?
Yeah, some of that's coming out of there.
We just-
So we could take 90 out of that, and that would leave you with 341. Because the other 60 that we need for her, the rest of those projects for their water and sewer, we're gonna take out of water and sewer. We're not gonna take it out of federal gas tax.
So you take another 160 out of,
That's what then that's to be the question on the table. Do you wanna go ahead and do this whole project? You have a choice. The 160 we're gonna have to put into the 2023 budget without knowing a whole lot of information, or we're going to say today, let's do this, and let's take the money out of a reserve here, pick a reserve, federal gas tax, and you will have severely depleted that account.
What about these other reserve funds we talked about, I think our last special council meeting possibly, that you said could be, might be an opportunity to collapse? And I'm looking, I have it marked here, the CRFLSF reserve. And the other one was the life insurance.
Insurance liabilities.
So, did you think about what was gonna happen with those reserves, or if they could be used? Or can we put them somewhere?
I would say that we would need to look at how they are established, what they were established for. I do believe, and I do not know this 100%, but I do believe because if it's established by bylaw, then you can deplete it, and I would think we would be able to deplete it. Once you understand why it was established, if you decided that you don't want it anymore, you would just rescind the bylaw and get rid of the reserve fund? Reserve, is that correct? Is that the process?
Yeah, unless it's a reserve fund that's mandatory. I mean, you have
There
discretion
are some,
on,
yes.
you have discretion on all your other reserves.
But that's what we need to know.
And That's the thing, the reserves are there to allow you to leverage borrowing should you need
Yeah.
to. It'll make your, what you say, interest rate go lower should
It
you
will.
ever need to borrow. Also make the term shorter, right, for borrowing. Yeah,
And I'm not, we don't know a whole complete 2023 budget.
Yep.
There might be room to pass part of this 160,000 onto a capital list and still, and pass some of that expense on to our taxpayers.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not, but there is so much we don't know. And I know this is timely, Nathan, but it just throws the whole budgeting idea, you see what I'm saying? It just gets to be, I was talking to Nathan today and I said, it's like me telling you, go get groceries for supper without me telling you what we're gonna eat. There's so much we don't know. And I'm afraid that we're going to have a huge list of things that we have approved as mayor and council, and then we're gonna come and we're gonna drop that budget and we're gonna be looking at another 11% tax increase. And that's how you guys started last year, was it not?
What was the recommendation, was just under 10 to go?
Yeah, just under 10.
And that didn't even fund all of the reserves that were being recommended.
Right.
Exactly. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but this application, there isn't any urgency to put the application in at this point in time, right? It was only if we put the application in, like they
yes.
will.
There's no deadline
There's
on
no
the
deadline.
The problem is, we are trying to get the money to do the chiller.
Yeah.
Before, so it's really trying to,
Before 2020
yeah.
The next
startup, before 2023 startup.
The next NHFC meeting's in June.
Yeah.
To hit that meeting, it's gotta be in by Friday.
But if you put it in, if you determine whether you wanna do one or both, right, you can put the application in June, and then you would probably have a result by September. And then you would put the cost forecast in that you weren't gonna be doing until, like, is that how it works? I'm never part of
No.
the beginning of the application,
No.
so.
So you're gonna put this in, and you're gonna phase one it and phase two it, right? That's an absolute fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're going to say, okay, so phase one, you need to install the ice chiller, do all this, right? And you're gonna come up with your 25%, we're gonna come in with our 75, give me the bills and that's done. Next year, the phase two starts. Well, let's just say the phase two starts, and we say, whew, my goodness, that was a lot of money, and we don't have the money, and the money that we wanted to set aside for reserves, we've already had to spend it on something else. Let's change the project. It's too late. You're in for a penny, you're in for a
One
pound.
application.
It's one application.
The stages are more for when you're anticipating, when you're actually gonna do.
Get the work done and
Yeah.
have to spend the money. You are, once you sign that legal agreement, the only way to do it is to make a
Amendment.
request for change, and it better be good. It better not be that we didn't have the money we said we're gonna have.
Yeah.
That's not gonna fly.
You can't back.
So what's wrong then with, waiting till their next deadline?
Because their next
Which-
meeting is probably gonna be October.
Then it risks you not getting money to fund the chiller. Now, there's a risk that they may just say absolutely no to this project, and then you're just gonna have to fund the chiller through a reserve, which you may potentially pay, right, the full 180,000. So we don't know, and this is just an application we're talking about.
Yeah.
At
It
the end
is.
of the day, if this application fails,
We're
But-
still gonna need a chiller.
you're still gonna need
Yeah.
to spend $180,000.
Would you ask, if this application fails, would you absolutely say you have to spend $660,000?
If you're saying this application fails.
If we put this application in, it failed, you're gonna come to us and say, you absolutely gotta remove that chiller
No,
payment.
you absolutely have to spend $180,000. The rest of it is, again, gonna be discretionary. I would only recommend.
Discretionary.
I would only recommend pursuing it through a grant, unless what you say, unless the energy savings were able to show a good return on investment in order to pursue it.
For that heating project.
Yep.
I think to a point though, too, like, you're also doing that work, you're protecting the asset. You're not, like, it's it's depreciating at a higher rate, not doing the rest of that work to the roof and to everything else, right?
There's well
So
over
there is-
$1 million worth of work that could easily go into the building. That's the challenge actually with a lot of your buildings, because
It is.
to do a roof here would be $700,000.
It is, I know, you're absolutely right, it is a risk.
That's,
Just the boiler alone here, right, was $300,000.
My wish list, I think it's attached here someplace. Yeah. Okay, I need these. Mayor Mullins, thoughts?
well, we're saying we gotta get the chillers, so. And,
For me, I agree with you though, the unknown of where we're gonna be sitting at the end
Scary.
of it all, it is a little.
It's to me, it's scary. Going back to the reserve fund is quick, easy, it is. But is it always smart? I keep looking back, one of the first things when I came on was to go through that asset management plan. And I know you and I've talked about it, there's some work that needs to be done to verify some of that data. But even if we had to come good for half of that asset management plan in the next 10 years, that's scary. So as quick and easy as it is to take the money from reserves, it just scares me.
Yeah, I think we need to be careful here. And, do what we need to do. Like there's stuff here that definitely has to be done. And get that done. And see how we can fund it down the road. The rest of it.
so you want to amend the ask to the ice chiller and the brine pump replacement, and
Just be the ice chiller.
The brine pump's not supposed to be in there, Melanie. She said it's just the ice chiller piece she's looking to replace.
okay, so.
I think she got
That's
confused because it's
185.
actually called the brine chiller.
It's a brine chiller. We're not very good with your terminology today. We're kind of butchering it. Sorry, Tim. It's a brine chiller. Is that an easier application?
So that's
Ethan?
100, so that's 185, how much would your hot water on demand be?
I need to grab my quote from Cloud Darling, I don't have it in front of me.
10?
Oh, is it around the $15,000 mark?
No, I don't think it is. I think that if I had to dig deep into my memory, I think it's 35 for the radiant and the balance of the 190 was the hot water.
Okay. Okay. So that, yeah. Okay, wait a second here, just a minute. Just a minute. Funding. Okay. Stop me, just let me think about this for a minute. Funding 9010. Funding maximum 200,000. That means the request can be over 200,000. It can be 220,000, of which 20,000 we're responsible for, 200 is
Correct. So you could put in a application
for 220.
or even if it was a project of 300,000, that's fine, but they're just saying the cap that they're saying is eligible is up to 200,000, where they would then cover a maximum of
90.
90% of that 200,000.
So if you put together a grant application for 220,000, we'd be in for 20, which would be the 10, but you could get $200,000 worth of work done.
Yep.
No, you would get $220,000 worth of work done, we'd pay 20.
Right.
That gets you your brine chiller and another $35,000 worth of work. It's not 660. I know it's not, but
That's just right, that's the difficulty of the decision. And to look at the strategy in some sense, the 200,000 is a more secure ask if you're looking at ensuring that chiller is funded. So that may work an advantage.
what do you think?
So we don't have to have it in by Friday.
Oh, yes.
No, it has to be in
This
by
has to be in by
It has to
Friday.
be in by Friday.
Do you want to go for this round and have a definite yes or no about that chiller before the winter hits? He's quite right. By Friday it has to be in.
Yeah, the gist of what you're looking at here, right, is either basically say that we're going to be putting in 20,000
Right. Versus 160.
versus the 160.
Yeah.
The 20,000 will get you $200,000. The 160 would be getting you 500,000.
I found the quote here on my computer. Storage tank and 4 on-demand heaters is 135,000. The infrared heaters is 56,000.
So that wouldn't be on the list then.
And like it is a level of comfort. Like you may see a good sale at a grocery store or whatever. Would you take, would you say 2 or 3 packs at 50% off, or do you take the whole skid?
Exactly.
So it is a Marlene, you had a question?
Well, I don't know whether, because I'm, what do you call it, hangry or whatever right now, my blood sugar might be but, in my head, I'm thinking, because what we're asking is whether or not you're endorsing the application. And so if the intent is to make sure that the arena season opens in October or November of 2024, right? Because what we've heard is that we won't be able to do startup.
No.
In 2024. We can do startup in 23 right now, but we can't do startup in 2024, right? So what we're asking right now is for the endorsement for the application. At this point in time, you're not saying, hey, we're spending $185,000 on a chiller, right? We're not even talking about that right now. But if you're committed to opening your arena, the ice in 2024, then you're committing 185,000. So if you're endorsing the application, again, not saying that you're going ahead with the project until you find out, what you're saying by that is you are committing 160,000. Right?
I don't believe you need heating in the arena to run that ice. I'd argue with you about that.
I'm not saying do the project.
Well, I'm saying is the minute the application goes in and it's approved, you're doing the project. All of it.
Okay.
Because if you go back and say we're not,
So
then that hazards a whole
You're
other.
committed to doing the whole thing.
Okay, so if you're committed to doing the whole thing, you're committing to $160,000.
The whole project is would be
So,
160.
If you take the 180, do you do the math now? 185, or someone do the math. If you're committed to having an ice season in 2024, you're committing to $185,000.
regardless of
If
any.
you're also gonna commit to fixing, or doing your, what was the first thing, the 135 was the boilers or
We
the
can't afford
water?
any of that.
So 185 and 135 is what? 220?
Yep.
No, 320.
320.
What the heck? Come on, you're supposed to be adding. So that's 320
Mm-hmm.
to do those. So what are you commit, at 25% of that, what are you committing?
At 10% of that?
No, 25.
Oh,
25.
20%.
Do 25 of that, right?
Instead of making the total project cost 660, she's making the total project cost 320. What's 25% of that?
64 and what?
You said 320?
320.
I didn't know where my
25%.
mouth
That's
was going now.
25%.
Never mind. I was, honestly, I was looking at the
80,000.
185 versus the 160 to me.
80,000.
80,000.
You're committing at 185,000 to make sure you have an arena season in 2024. Or you're committing to the application at 160,000.
So you're,
Because if you put the application in and it's denied,
We still have to come good for the chiller.
we
you still
still have
then
to spend 185,000.
you
We
still
do.
decide whether or not you want to do what that's even a bigger decision on whether or not you're going to do the chiller or you're not.
If
Right?
decision is whether we're opening the arena
Or not. That ultimately will be the decision.
Yeah. No,
Right,
I see your point.
Quite right.
Good point.
It's just like this, it's the heater, it's the rest of this, the heat of the roof, the plumbing, the carpentry. Like, I'm not saying it's not needed. You're not gonna get an, I think it is needed. How do I come up with $160,000? What do I not do? Do I do all this? And I don't know. How do I get 160,000 out of operating? Maybe you don't want any staff. I don't know. Like, how am I gonna, because I can't keep coming to the reserve well to pay for this. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I have concern with going to the taxpayers and saying, can you fund this for me? At some point, so we need to make the hard decisions about what needs to get done, and my concern is, and I wish I had it with me tonight, that whole wish list of other things for other buildings and other departments that we haven't even looked at, because we don't know what we don't know right today. And Nathan's right, and Tammy's right, the timeliness of this is important. I totally get it. But we don't know what we don't know. We're spending money that I don't even know how we're gonna fund.
So if you do it at the, I remember what it was I was doing, not to use my own spreadsheet, but if you do the, if you put the application in at 185 for the chiller and 135 for the boilers, right? So that comes out to 320. That qualifies in the 75-25. That 25% is 80,000.
Yeah.
So then, as Benji said, you're protecting your asset because you're protecting your boiler, right? is that what you're kind of trying to reduce what the application is, maybe, or
I'm
I don't
trying-
know? Because I get we need to maximize. You need to maximize the funding, right?
We
As
do.
much as possible.
We have to maximize the funding with being responsible for the overall financial impact it's gonna have to the corporation of the township of Schreiber.
Yeah.
Overall, because we've got a lot of departments
And the taxpayers.
and the taxpayers. So there's another thought. Do you do two, instead of submitting in 660, do you submit in 320? And then we'll have to run around and see if we can find 80 instead of 20 or 160.
That would be,
That's middle of the road.
yeah, that'd be a compromise.
Because the other things on that list you identified, Tammy, that they were not as important, right? As the,
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm
Some of
not,
them are.
I'm
they
not,
are, but not,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, my job is to identify what needs to be brought up to
Yeah.
snuff on all of your buildings.
Yeah, and we need to know that too, like we discussed. So.
I mean, ultimately, whether or not we do it, I mean, if I felt very strongly about something, I would definitely sell it to you. But I mean, I feel that the furnace is important, the chiller is an absolute must. The rest are also important, but we could probably wait on those
Okay,
ones.
well, I think we could, that makes more sense to me.
Does it make more sense to you? Does
Yeah.
it make more sense to you, Mayor Mullins?
I'm sorry.
Just doing the furnace and the brine chiller and do it at 75/25 and we'd be on the hook for 80 instead of 160. And the rest of the repairs we'll take care of in another year at another tax time. But then it hits Benji's point about those are the two big things to protect that asset, which is the arena. Or no, you don't like that either?
Yeah,
It's the
Okay.
money. I know it's spending the money. It's you got to figure a different way. I know, but
yeah, I can live with that. I can live with that, but I'm cheaper than you probably.
I know
'Cause
you
I
probably
like
are.
the 90/10.
I know.
No
The 90/10
offense.
is the 90. No, the 90/10. This is what's on how cheap I am all the time. The 90/10 is way more attractive. $20,000 versus $80,000 is huge. You get the brine chiller done and something else that she could put together for 35,000.
Yeah.
But you would not get the whole furnace, not even close.
I think that the heating upgrade would be easy to explain to most people in the community that go to that arena.
I'm totally biased towards the building.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's one of our most important assets.
Yeah, oh,
that
for
we
sure.
have, and
And what do,
I think it's important that we keep it in good repair and
yeah, so,
do as much as we can all agree on doing.
I think we could,
Saying so you're saying the 80
yeah,
is a comfortable level to get then 320.
Okay.
160.
Depending on the rest of the budget, I'm even more comfortable going into the reserve for 80 somewhere.
If we have to, if we can't make it
If
work
we
with
have to.
we
taxation,
have to, and we don't want to, but if we.
we don't want to.
No,
Because
I don't wanna.
that reserve, we can't keep going to that well all the time. Okay, but so we'll just figure out how we're going to tackle the 80 as we move forward in our budget.
Yeah,
What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, no, I'm
Then-
okay
then
with that.
we won't
I
stick
won't
it.
have to.
But then you get the heating
And
and
first one,
the chiller.
yeah,
No, the first one will be okay.
just got
I think
a
that's-
number.
That
That's
just
good.
has to change to the.
We've talked about a lot of stuff. Is it clear? Sorry.
No.
I didn't think so.
Just like ingredients, you would pass it, that way you don't have to keep scratching.
Nathan, Nathan, do you want to come up with that? How do you want to word this now?
we
You got it?
Oh,
Okay,
just
perfect.
discussing.
Look at you guys, way ahead of us.
That's why I missed.
Okay, here we go, Cam. This is it, Cam. We're good. This is how it's gonna go.
yeah, thanks, and thanks, Marlene, for
Yes, thank you.
putting that in perspective, that,
Good discussion.
Actually, there'll be no amendment to Resolution 89-23. I'll read it again. That the Council of Township Schreiber has identified the renovations to the Schreiber Community Arena and the priority project, including the replacement of the chiller and upgrades to the heating system to improve the functionality and to extend the useful life of the facility.
I love that. Alright, George, I like
Any more discussion?
no, I'm good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
No, I think it's fine going to the reserve, but you gotta put money back in. That's- Go to the bank, pick some out.
So this will be resolution 90-23, moved by Councilor Bryson, seconded by Councilor McGrath, that the Council of the Township of Schreiber authorize a funding application to NOHFC with respect to the renovations at the Schreiber Community Arena and commit $80,000 to the project to be financed. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. show it.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, number 2 under other business is the meeting schedule.
So
Because we love it so much.
our next meeting will be, next, Monday, so I'll be setting the agenda tomorrow.
That's March
13th.
time, boss?
Time, that's exactly what we need to finalize. Are we okay with doing it a bit earlier? I know typically it's after 4 works for you, Benji?
After 3-ish, 4, it's dead.
How's it gonna work?
The afternoon anyway, like, I don't know what would be.
How's it gonna work with, you gonna send an email out to Dave after?
Typically, he's fine with anything after 3.
Yeah.
I'm good after 3.
I'm open to there too.
Depending on what, so, guys are moving the meeting for me, I'm good for midnight.
Things go things go south with me at work. I've been gone for days. It's not gonna make a difference.
Okay, so tentatively, we okay doing it a bit earlier towards 3:30? I'll send out an email to confirm with everyone.
Can I see the agenda first?
We'll see you tomorrow.
Well, mind
Yeah.
you, that doesn't mean
Tentative
anything, this
3:30.
one's very short.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Resolution 91-23, moved by Councilor McGrath, seconded by Councilor Burgeon, that the meeting now adjourn at 7:08 p.m. All those in favor? Carried.